So, this episode is probably the most difficult episode that I've had to record in this whole process of doing this podcast, this YouTube video, and this Apple and Spotify podcast. Um, and I'm not certain why. Um, I have been trying to record this podcast for about a week now, a week and a half. And for whatever reason, every single thing that can go wrong to prevent me from recording this podcast has gone wrong and prevented me from recording this podcast. So, just full transparency, the way that I have been doing the podcast is I have an idea about something that is either relevant to my life currently or has been, and or it's an idea of something that is pressing on my spirit that I want to help people with. I think, this is something that God is depositing in my spirit, and I want to get it out to whoever needs it. So that's typically the way the podcast starts. And what I do from that point is I develop an outline to just sort of help me curate the message so that I can be succinct and efficient with your time and my time, and truly wrap the message in a certain way that it can be best digested, easily digestible, and received. Because at the end of the day, I'm not talking because I love to hear myself talk. I'm not recording these podcasts because I'm in love with the sound of my voice that much. I genuinely do this because I have a deep, innate desire to help break people free in much of the same manner that people have helped me and continue to help me to break free. So, but for whatever reason, this podcast has not been able to be recorded. And so I am saying this because I've sat here for probably about an hour trying to go down my outline of what this particular podcast was supposed to be about. This podcast was supposed to be about helping men in particular to unmask some of the um, issues that lie beneath our surface. And I have a great outline, and I was trying to use that as my guide, but it wasn't coming out. And I'm not certain if it wasn't coming out because this message needs to get out there so bad that any and everything in this world that can come against getting that message out is coming to prevent that message from getting out. I'm not certain if that's the issue. I'm not certain if this message is not the message that needs or wants to be out there right now. Honestly, I'm not certain. But what I am certain is that it has been difficult for me to speak on this very topic. And as I'm sitting here, and this is all off script, as I'm sitting here thinking about it and talking about it right now, I feel a little bit more empowered just speaking candidly about this issue than I am about going down and using the script in the outline that I developed to present this podcast. So I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to go with that flow and see what happens, what comes out. And at the end of it, if you, and I would suggest that you stick around to the end of this, uh, at the end of it, I sincerely hope that whatever needs to be said gets to whomever it needs to get to break whatever chain off of you that needs to be broken. So I think the difficulty that I'm having with presenting this podcast is because the thing that I'm speaking about is actually something, if I'm transparent, is actually something that I've personally been struggling with for the last definitely for the last couple of weeks, but maybe a little bit longer than that off and on. And that's this notion of as a man, we are taught how to be certain ways. We're taught to be strong. We're taught to get the job done, to persevere, to press on. And I do believe 100% that God has empowered men. And that's not to say that he hasn't empowered women in the same regard, but I do believe that he has empowered men to shoulder a certain amount of responsibility. He's strengthened our backs in a certain way, literally and figuratively, to carry the loads of the people entrusted to us. But what I have discovered, what I have experienced personally, and what I have seen in many men throughout varied demographics around this entire globe is that often, in an effort to be who we were called to be who we were created to be, we don't ever really take the time to reflect on how that load bearing is actually bearing on our hearts. And what ends up happening is because of the way we've been taught in our communities and essentially in the world, what ends up happening is that those emotions, those thoughts, those emotions and thoughts get buried underneath our can-do attitude. You know, it's almost like it's a badge of honor to, as I'm talking about this, I'm imagining, like somebody in a war or something, and they're taking, enemy fire and they get hit, but it's like, they want to keep fighting on, and I'm imagining somebody, with a bullet wound still, firing back at the enemy. I'm imagining, the guy playing pickup basketball and like, he dislocates his shoulder or something, but everybody's looking at him, so he's like, "Ah, I got it," and he's driving to the hoop. We as men are conditioned to shake it off. We're conditioned to act like we're not hurt, suck it up, dry those tears. And again, I believe that that plays a role, that has a purpose in society because we need strong men. We don't need, spineless, can't take a lick, you know, men in this world. The world actually needs more strong men. But what happens when after years and years and years of being that strong guy, but still bearing our pains, our fears, our regrets, what happens? I'll tell you what happens. What happens is we develop caricatures of ourselves and we develop personas and based off of what we're trying to protect. Okay. So, some of us turn into the smooth, laid back, cool as a cucumber cat who, everything washes off of his back like water off a duck's back. Some of us turn into that guy. Some of us turn into the loud alpha male, toxic masculinity. I hate that phrase, but since it's a buzzword right now and people get it, I'll use it. Some of us turn into that guy where, we're the loudest person in the room. We got it all figured out. We have an answer for everything. We're not afraid. We're not ashamed to speak up when or if something needs to be said. We're going to be the person that says it. We're going to be the person that does it. Some of us turn into the uh like what I call the present ghosts, which means that we're present, but emotionally and mentally we're ghosts. We're out, we're somewhere else. You know, we turn into that guy, or we turn into, the silent type, the guy who, we all have experienced that guy, the old grandpa or something who just sits in the corner and, the wheels are turning and he's thinking stuff and you can see the expression on his face. He's wanting to say, but he rarely, if ever, utters a word. We've experienced that. And again, all of these personas are just caricatures that we develop to protect the soft center, the sensitive center that we all deal with. We're trying to figure out how best to bury that pain so deep that it's unrecognizable to us in other people. We don't want to know. I really do believe that. I really believe that as men, we are actually afraid to know the source of our pain. In the last 10 plus years, I've had medical issues that I've had to deal with. And throughout that period, there have been several periods where I adopted the mentality of like, I just don't want to know. I don't even want to go to the doctor to see what my levels are. I don't want to go do the stress test to know specifically what my heart is capable of and so forth and so on. And I think we get to a point as men where we just don't want to know. It's easier to keep on keeping on if we don't know, if we claim we don't know. And I think that that's uh, to our demise because what you don't know, what you don't address, or let me put it like this, what you don't know, you can't address. And maybe that's the issue. We don't want to know because we don't want another thing that we've got to battle. In my personal experience, since we're being candid, I know that that has been a part of my struggle where you understand as a father, as a husband, as a brother, son, all of the roles as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a creative, whatever role you, whatever crown you wear, right? You know the inherent battles that you're going to have to deal with in your role as a father. And when I say the battles, you don't specifically know when, where, or how that battle is going to manifest, but you know there's going to be some battles. If you have a teenager, teenage daughter, teenage son, adult son, it doesn't matter. If you have children, there's going to be some battles, right? And so essentially, we're trying to preserve our ammunition, as it were, to deal with the known battles, right? We know if you're a husband, you're going to have to, you know, deal with some stuff that will require your patience, your wisdom, your understanding, your forgiveness, all valuable assets that we possess that we protect and preserve to be used in the appropriate time for the appropriate purpose. And so, knowing that, essentially, we run from we run from the biggest battle there is, and that's the one with self. We run from feeling the feels and recognizing what they are, what the source is, and doing something about it because we all think we're Superman. If you're in my generation, I grew up, Superman was my favorite superhero. And to this day, if I have a favorite superhero, it would probably be Superman because the juxtaposition of Clark Kent to Superman to me is, I mean, that's every man's battle. How do you be a regular Joe, an average guy trying to get along, however the expression goes, in life and society? You don't want to cause too much trouble, but you don't want to be, a wallflower. You just want to, get along with your day, get along with your life. How do you juxtapose that with the immense responsibility of being a man in this world, being a man to your children, being a father to your children, being a man, a husband to your wife? How do you juggle that juxtaposition? Well, it's hard. And what I've experienced personally and what I've experienced in seeing through various men around the world is that, again, we bury that thing. We bury the most important battle there is in our lives, and that's looking in the mirror and being honest with ourselves. And here's the thing, also, in my experience, the reality is that people may not be able to put their finger on the thing. They may not be able to call it by its name, but people know if you're fully engaged and fully present. And it's like, you know, the person, and this may be a crude analogy, but I'm winging it tonight. So it's like the person who skips the shower, you know, and he or she is just constantly checking all day, every day, just to make sure that, get a quick whiff to just, double check. And it's like people pass by you and they get a, huh, did he? It's like it's this constant tug of war. You're like trying to hide it as much as you can, but there's still a little something that's permeating the atmosphere that you can kind of tell, but you deny it, or that maybe that's just something in the wind. And then somebody passing you by is like, huh, well, maybe that, I don't know. The point of the matter is that you're trying desperately to bury the truth, and you're trying to mask it as best as you can, and people in close proximity are trying to ignore it, all the while they know, huh, something ain't right. And so that was a very long, crude analogy to say that we as men think that we are burying these burdens and these um, pains and struggles, and we think no one can see that we're not truly present, or that, you know, our temper. Let's talk about that. So, in all of these personas and caricatures that we develop, at the core of most of the struggle that I've seen in men, whether it be overt overt aggression, or whether it be aloofness, or whether it be, too cool for school, or whether, the loud talker, whatever persona and caricature we develop, most people around us deal with that. It is almost impossible, I believe, for most people, the average person, to get past our caricature that we present. What do I mean by that? So let's say, because of the pain you're bearing, because of the pain you've experienced, you know, your temper is a little shorter than you'd like it to be. And you know it. Maybe you saw your dad act that way. Maybe you saw your brothers or your uncles act that way. Or maybe you never even knew your father. Maybe you never had a relationship with a man in your life, and you develop this anger and this temper because of that pain. So it doesn't really matter the source. But what we're talking about now is the fruit. So now, for whatever reason, you've got a short fuse, and the world, meaning society, the global world, the global society, your community, your city, your job, bring it home, your relationships, your household, the whole thing, the global and the macro and the micro. When you lose your temper, 99.9% of people are going to deal with the fact that you lost your temper. And so now we have a double whammy, because now you are dealing with a man who is struggling internally, doesn't know exactly what to call it, where did it come from, how do I deal with this, doesn't know. So what he does know is aggression. And so now, because of this burden, the fruit of that is aggression. So now he flies off the handle, right? Curses somebody out, punches somebody in the mouth, whatever the case may be. And now the world, rightfully so, is dealing with that man as a man who lost his temper. So it's a catch-22. It's a double-edged sword. So what am I saying? I'm definitely not saying to condone poor behavior. I'm definitely not saying that men should get a free pass because, they're struggling. Definitely not saying that. But what I am saying is that two things need to happen. first and foremost, men need to take the permission to literally look up and see a green light that says you can explore the depth of your truest feelings. You can explore the reality that something hurt you. You are allowed to say and express that something really, really hit you in the gut. You have permission. There is a green light. So that's the first step. You know, we often talk about how it takes a village to raise a child, and we all understand what that means. It does. You know, I think the most successful children who turn into the most successful adults come from a village. And that doesn't mean that it's a traditional village, mom and dad, two dogs and a sister, and then they went to the best schools. It doesn't matter how the village is created, but it does matter that there is a village of people connected in your life who have your best interests at heart and who see and pour into your potential. And so I'd like to take that a step further. I'd like to say that it takes a squad to strengthen a man for his purpose. It takes a squad. And for me and my experiences, and what I invite you to do as well, is to, at the head of your squad, the head coach, the Phil Jackson, the Sean Payton, as it were, should be God the Father. And then after that, we need to start cultivating relationships around that to build a squad that strengthens us for our purpose, for our journey. If you're married, your wife can be a good source after God. If you're not married, or even if you are married, trusted brothers, trusted men who aren't perfect, because neither are you, but who are deeply invested in your well-being, which includes speaking to you in a way that may make you uncomfortable, but it's for your best. It is keeping the eye on the prize of your purpose and not allowing temporary discomfort to detract from that. And also in that squad are counselors. And I am a proponent of men, women, children, everybody finding a counselor, a professional counselor that can help you unpack, that can walk this journey with you in life to help you unpack the known and the unknown, mostly the unknown, because it's never really the stuff that we know that's the real culprit in our lives. It's the things that we don't know. But how do you know? You don't know what you don't know. So you need counselors in your life that can help you unpack that. And I'm going to go a step further, and this might be to the chagrin of professional counselors, but I do believe that God can use anybody to counsel you. Now, obviously, if you need medication or anything like that, obviously you want to go to the professional to help with that, and it's wise to seek out professional help. But don't shun or despise or turn away the counsel of elders. Definitely don't shun or turn away the counsel of people that have been where you are and have overcome. So that could be a child, that could be a peer, that could be somebody of the opposite sex, that could be somebody in your workplace, that it could be anybody, it could be a stranger. So we have to open ourselves up to the reality that counseling is always a good thing. There's a scripture, I can't quote it off the top of my head, but it's something to the effect of the multitude of counsel. I'm gonna have to look that up. If you know the scripture I'm referencing, put it in the comments. But in the multitude of counsel, there's wisdom. Oftentimes we isolate ourselves for various reasons, but we isolate ourselves and we are the judge, juror, and executioner of everything in our life. And that's just not wise. It's just not wise because we're emotional beings. We're emotional beings. We're broken, right? We have egos. We have all of these things wrapped up in this flesh. So a lot of times we're unable to be objective about what is the right course of action. What is the right way of thinking? Am I even thinking properly? Right? So we need the multitude of counselors. So again, just going back a second, it takes a squad to strengthen a man for his purpose, for his journey. So start with something that is solid, that's immovable, that's God the Father. Then if you're blessed to have a wife, hopefully you are in a committed, trusting relationship where you can go to your wife about some of the things that you're struggling with. And it's let me create a caveat here, or let me an asterisk. It is not your wife's job to fix you. It is not your wife's job to baby you, coddle you into a place where you are pacifying your struggle. It is my belief that in a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage, that she will bring you comfort, because Lord knows wives can be some of the greatest source of comfort that a man can have on this earth. I know that for certain. But she's not just here just for your comfort. There should be a method to it. Comfort so that you can rise up. Comfort so that you can see the reality. Comfort so you can be aware. And all of those things, the awareness, the rise up, all of those things are for the express purpose of you now doing something to eradicate those things in your life, to deal with those things in your life. We don't need to be lullabied to sleep. We don't need to be cuddled to sleep. And that's very aggressive language, but I mean that 100%. You're a man. You don't need to be babied. You need to be comforted. You need to be inspired. You need to be made aware. But again, it is all in an effort so that you are now armed with information. You are now encouraged to get up, get out, and do something. At the end of the day, it all comes back to what you were created for. You were created to worship. You were created to work. And by work, yeah, I mean a job. But more important, work means that you were created to create. You were created to pursue. You were created to take dominion of this world, not take dominion over people, but to take dominion over your environment. That is your work. And so the best way to do that most efficiently, most effectively, is if you are in touch with what is really going on the inside of you. And so as we build this squad to strengthen men for their purpose, for our purpose, it is so important to be watchful and to not just automatically assume or trust that you can unload, unleash, and reveal your truest emotions and thoughts to any and everybody. It is far worse to do that than it is to just keep it buried on the inside. So I want to encourage you. I'm not warning you because this is not based on fear, but I am absolutely encouraging you as you set out to build your squad to strengthen you, that you are not so desperate that you open yourself, literally and figuratively, to wolves in sheep's clothing. And I'm talking about something that I know. I'm talking about something that I've experienced and paid the price and overcame. You can be in so much pain. You can be so desperate because of that pain. Unbeknownst to you, you may not even know that you reek of desperation because, again, these caricatures that we develop in this can do, I could, shoot a basketball with a dislocated shoulder. It's because of that attitude that we are blind to the fact that we actually have holes in our armor. And if that is the case, you could actually be more desperate than you realize, and anything done out of desperation, let me say it this way. There aren't many things done in desperation that end well. What do I mean by that? In desperation breeds fear. Desperation, its sister or its cousin is worry. Desperation forces us or convinces us that we just have to do something right now, whatever it is. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I just got to do something right now. I need something. I need a fix. Right. That's desperation. So the feeling of desperation is human. I would, I would, I would submit that the feeling of desperation is human. But when we act on that desperation, that's when we get into a world of trouble. Right. So in your effort to create the squad or to seek out a squad, to pray for a squad, be mindful that you are not operating from a place of desperation, because I promise you, desperation is like a plate of barbecue sitting on a bench in City Park in August in New Orleans. Like, it's going to attract flies. So operate from a place of power, operate from a place of strength. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you go to the source, if you go to the Father, God the Father, and express, reveal that you are confused, you are hurting, you are in pain, you don't know which way to go to the Father first and foremost, and he will direct your path. He will bring people into your life. He will protect you from people who only want to feed off of your desperation. So that's the thing. Those types of situations are like a leech. You've got something that they need to survive, and you think they've got something that you need to survive. And it's an enabling, um, terrible, terrible situation. So just be mindful. I want to encourage you to be mindful about who you allow in your atmosphere. And so, just wrapping up, I believe that this was the message that needed to be spoken. I believe I needed to hear this as I'm speaking it. And I genuinely believe that somebody out there needs to hear this too. The struggle that I've endured recently is because there was fruit in my life that I could not understand what the source of it was. You know, nothing in my life is inherently terrible right now. Nothing in my life is some new, out of the ordinary thing that knocked me off my feet. My life is going pretty well, pretty good right now. But there are some things that, because I'm a man of God, because in my eyes, I'm Superman, because of that, I have essentially been burying some things that actually hurt me. And so, in full transparency, it has been difficult to walk in faith and trust God, which I do 100%, but also acknowledge the fact that, man, this really hurts. That really hurt my heart, you know? And I don't think God frowns upon that. God knows we're human. God knows that we feel things and things hurt us to our core. But in my experience, I believe that his strength is made perfect in our weakness. So you don't have to hide the fact that you're hurt. You don't have to hide the fact that you have some regrets. You don't have to hide the fact that, yes, I believe you, God, but right now I just ain't feeling it. You don't have to hide that from God. And it's in the hiding of that from God that our enemy uses that. That's fertile ground for our enemy. So I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to set out building your personal squad. I want to encourage you to, again, let God be at the head of that squad. If you're into sports, you know Michael Jordan didn't win those championships until Phil Jackson came with all of his talent. Drew, Drew Brees was a good quarterback, but he became a great quarterback under Sean Payton. There is a reason why it takes a strong leader, a strong head coach, a strong father to lead us to greatness. So I want to encourage you as you seek out your squad to go to God first and to admit the truth, to explore, to ask Him to open up your heart to see what might be the source of your pain. And then once He exposes that, now you are, or you can set out on a course to actually start dealing with it, to confessing to your wife, to, reaching out to your brothers, other strong men, to seeking out professional and informal counseling. And I promise you, first of all, this is not a one size fits all, one shot and you're cured scenario. You are developing a squad for life. And people can ebb and flow and come and go. God doesn't. He'll be there for the duration as long as you want him to be there. But other people can ebb and flow. But I promise you, the people you need are out there, and the people you need in various seasons of your life are out there. You don't have to do this alone. You should not do this alone. But equally, you should not be so desperate that you open yourself up to people, places, and circumstances that are literally designed to kill, steal, and destroy your purpose, your joy, your journey. So I'm going to end it right here. And I sincerely hope that you got something out of this. If you got anything out of this, please leave me a comment. It truly, truly encourages me to keep pressing on with this podcast. I'm going to do it because I'm committed to it and it means a lot to me. But I appreciate all of the people that reach out to me directly through the comments to let me know that this is reaching you and that it is helping you. And if it helped you, I imagine that there's somebody in your life that it would help. Ladies, send this to your man. Moms, send this to your son. Wives, send this to your husband. Brothers, send it to your brother. Whomever. We have got to create an environment that men can take off their armor, find some reprieve, and then get back to the fight. Every man, no man, I believe that God put in our core a desire to be victorious. And I don't care what kind of man, what version of man you think you are, at the core of us is a warrior. And I don't mean, just a fighter, just somebody who wants to fight. What I mean is that we are soldiers. We are soldiers. We are men. And so I don't believe that the real essence of a man is to, go lounge on the beach forever. I believe that there is a fight in every man. There's a fight, a fire. And so when we get this reprieve, when we get this counseling, when we get this comfort from our wives, it's not, again, to lull us to sleep. It's to get us back out on the battlefield. And so I encourage you, brothers, get what you need the right way and then get back out on that battlefield. The world needs you. Your children need you. Your wives need you. Your brothers, your community. Until the next video, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment. If you want to continue this discussion, feel free to send me a message, a private message, and I'd love to talk with you and meet with you and see how we can help to continue breaking these chains together. Peace.